Sounded like you were about to say something.
Oh, I was gonna say I was expecting that because this whole Taylor Swift thing that we did was in the cards from I think it was yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care as long as we make it back in time. Like, yeah, it's fine. And like we started watching it at like 5:30, and I'm like, okay, 5:30. I'm thinking
hours.
it's like an hour and a half, something like that. They pulled it up before it started playing. It's 3.5 hours long. And I was like, "Oh dear God!" And it's just Taylor Swift music. Is all this? It's just a concert,
It's
and it's just
her
like
singing. Yeah,
I'm like, holy ass!
there's not enough weed in the world to get through this. And I don't even necessarily mind all of her music. She is definitely not my favorite artist, without a doubt. But yeah, 3.5 hours of Taylor Swift. That's like
I didn't know it was that
that's how
long.
they get POWs to talk, man. That's rough. That's rough stuff.
I didn't really even know many of the songs until they got towards it. We didn't even finish it. It was.
I know Shake It Off. Is Shake It Off in here?
Yeah.
You guys
it was
could do
in
the
there.
Shake It Off somewhere. I do want to say, on the record, I think you realize when I text you on Sunday, like, hey, I'm downstairs. It is not a like, get the fuck down here and podcast, because sometimes I feel like you're like tossing things aside, pushing your wife over, running down the stairs, like it's just that, hey, I'm online whenever you feel like it, we can start. That's all it is.
Well, it's two separate things. The first part is like I'm usually not doing anything anyways, so it's like, okay, let's go make the donuts, sort of situation. But it is also, Kayla did kind of hit it on the head, because it's like after I do this, because like even now, because we did this, I still haven't even showered yet. So after this, I have to pack our lunches for tomorrow for work, and I have to shower before I can go lay down.
Well, I will say this. I understand, but there is nothing quite like a nice shower right before bed, though. That is one of the most wonderful experiences a human can be. And I don't do it often. Usually I take a shower in the middle of the day, so I don't take it at night. But the one time I do it is when I go out to the garage game, my role-playing game, my in-person role-playing game session, where we play until 2 in the morning. We all smoke in the garage. Like, they smoke cigarettes, I smoke my pipe. So, like, I smell like an ashtray by the time I'm coming home. So I gotta take a shower. I'm not climbing into bed. Like, I couldn't stand me being in bed, let alone make my wife go through that. But, like, that shower is always the best fucking shower there is, because it is 2 in the morning, everybody's asleep, I'm showering by myself, I put on clean clothes, and then I just slide into bed. Just, it is magical.
So it is, so me showering in the evening is still a remnant from when I worked in restaurants, because it's pointless to
that
wake up before
that weird smell from cooking in a kitchen.
Well, and it's pointless to wake up and take a shower before work when you go work in a kitchen anyways.
Right.
So I would always shower after work. So I still just shower after work. I'm really weird because like I have to make sure that my shower has to happen within 24 hours of when I showered last, or else I just feel like I'm just a garbage pail human.
Yeah, I get it.
But like tonight, I actually washed the bed sheets today too. So I have a double going on here.
That's the double comfort. That's like hypoallergenic shit. You're like going to sleep in a clean room. Ooh. I like
exactly.
That. I like that. I like that.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good. It's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming. You, dear listener, have decided for whatever reason to listen to another Horrible Gaming Podcast. I am not alone. Usually I am never alone. With me is...
Neil, a.k.a. Tiny Wizard.
And we are going to have fun on this show today. Our topic is a fun one. I do want to say I apologize to everybody out there. Last week was my fault, 100%, that we did not put a podcast up. And then I really should have made a post maybe on our YouTube or in our Discord at least, stating that we missed it. But I'm going to be completely honest with you guys because I try to always be completely honest with you guys. Last week was a powerfully rough week for podcast co-host A, that being me. The weekend was just an ungodly nightmare that opened up into 2 more nightmarish days of just mental, personal anguish. Not going to get into it more than that just because it's private stuff, but just know that I just was not in the right place to do a podcast at that point in time. I just needed to take the day off kind of spontaneously, and I'm sorry about that. I really am, especially to William Hewin, who we're going to read his comment, and we'll all understand why, but there's some people out there who are really looking forward to that podcast. It didn't come, and I'm just sorry. Very sorry. I should have conveyed to somewhere that, hey, there's not going to be a podcast this week.
Studies have shown it do be like that sometimes.
It do be like that sometimes. Still, I apologize. One of our tenets here on Old Man Gaming is communication. We're pretty good at it, and I kind of dropped the ball on all levels with last week's podcast, so I apologize for that. But we have a podcast for you this week. We have a show for you this week, a fun one, if I do say so myself. We are going to look at our top 3 video game soundtracks of all time, which is going to be a lot of fun, probably make a lot of people mad at me. It's gonna be a good time. But before we do that, we have to thank the people who have made this possible. Behind our ugly mugs, you see a custom graphic that is provided by Mr. Mark Bell. We thank him for that. And then, of course, this show and the theme song for this show and all shows here on Old Man Gaming are provided by the man who makes the music, my brother Nick Van Siders. We thank him for that. We'll be right back with Fans Reaction.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our first segment, our most important segment. That's Fan Traction. That's where we, the co-hosts, we talk to you guys, the fans. We read out your comments, talk to you, riff about it, stuff like that. These are comments, of course, from 2 weeks ago because I, yet again, failed to put up a podcast last week. And yet again, I apologize. And I'm going to apologize again. Just prepare for it because our first poster is William Hohen. Hi! ! So I'm on strike at work. So listen to this while I walk aimlessly outside, and it's cold. So I'll keep my comments to a minimum. Still, thanks for the show. It's really helping me right now. Cheers. #damn you, Neil. Will, really failed you last week. I apologize. That really sucks. Honestly, if I had read that comment or had time to read that comment before I had canceled, I would have forced myself to do it just to just to get you something, because that sounds miserable, and I'm so sorry, man. I hate letting the few fans we have down. Yeah. And especially since our fans are kind of like our friends, because we're such like a smaller community. So I'm sorry, Will. I really am. Here's podcast. I promise. And I'm gonna go one step further. I'm gonna go one step further with Neil's okay of this. In your comments for this, well, you could decide after I say it. I was just pausing for a fact.
It's like, sure.
In your comments for this episode, decide what our topic is for next week. Pick a topic. Any topic you want us to talk about, we'll talk about it. Any topic you want us to talk about it, we'll talk about it, because you're on strike and you need the entertainment. So what do you want to hear us talk about next week as a talking point? You write it in those comments, and unless it's insane, like which you wouldn't be, you're a nice guy, but we're not going to talk about people shooting people or something like that. Just video games, keep it to video games. But other than that, pick the topic, we'll talk about it. That is my promise to you, to make up for my train hit the mountain on that one. My mistake last week. So, moving on, we have Jason. Game scent, horse shit, rotting corpses, brimstone, Satan's demonic farts. Yes, Yes, that's what you'd get with Game Scent. You could smell the dangly balls from Red Dead Redemption's horses when they get warm out. Excitement there. Jason.
That's what we are all clamoring for. That level of immersion that people don't actually want.
Right. Dystopian future. Well, this is something I haven't done before, I guess. It's 2024. I've done all the other things. DBD is doing a Slipknot crossover, too. That'll be a good one as well.
I just saw that,
That'll be a
yes.
good one as well. I think that would be a really good one as well. Lordy, any Lordy fans out there? I doubt there would be. That would be a good one.
I was gonna say, are you about to tell me that Lordy's doing one too?
No, I think that would be a good one. Like, let's get Lordy on there, man.
Shit.
Yes.
They have a song. Would you love a Monster Man?
No. Yeah, exactly. Hard Rock Hallelujah is mine. My wrestling persona. That was his theme. His name's Zachariah Hard Rock, so it made sense. Okay, continuing. Jason continues. Larian's owner is a giant nerdy dork. It's a shame most game companies ain't little work families just like that anymore. And you know what's funny is Larian isn't even really a little work family anymore. They have become
a big work family.
Very big, but they still seem to treat each other that way. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I think if video games, AAA video game companies, were run by developers, straight, real developers, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in. But they're not. They're run by money-grubbing CEOs, like super high-end rich people who only care about money. They have figures, and they care about money, and that's it. They don't care about the art that goes into it. They only care about the dollar signs and how much money they can intake from it. And what's funny is that's actually costing them money in the long run. I think you look at a company like Larian, which has gotten so big in the last couple of years, but it's still run really well. It's run by nerdy dorks who founded the company, who wanted to make this game, And I think if Microsoft was run by people like that, if, EA was run by people like that, Ubisoft was run by people like that, we would be in a very different situation today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's moved away from all gaming companies start out of like passion, hobby, love for the craft, but eventually, it ends up turning into strictly a money-making venture. And, I'm not going to, shit on a company making money, but the focus turns to strictly just that. And the fun and the culture gets pushed out for strictly just the figures. That's why games like, I feel like at least that's why games like Baldur's Gate 3, like the game is built well and you can feel like the dedication to what they're trying to present and not just, oh, hey, look, money. And because they put the time and effort and actually care, guess what? Hey, look, money happens still.
Right. I think one of the big problems with just capitalism as a whole right now in America is all the companies have forgotten that the basis of capitalism was not just to make money, it's to make money for a product. Like you're creating a product, a product that's quality. It seems like every company out there wants to skip the product part. They just want to go right to the money making
just
part.
Money.
Yeah, you just want us to hand you money. That's not how it works. Prices just keep jacking up, quality keeps going down, and it's like you forgot you're supposed to sell us something. And you're trying to compensate for us not buying the thing that you're making, because the thing you're making, you're not making it as well as you used to. You jacking up the price is not going to make it better. What you need to do is make your product better. That's the foundations of capitalism. Is we make a thing that's good, you give us money for the thing that's good, and everybody forgot to make the thing that's good in the first place.
It's like the South Park underpants gnomes
yes,
thing.
It really
it's
is.
Like they totally. Yes. There's nothing there for second step, and it's just money.
Second step, yeah. It's like first step, start company. Second step, I don't know. Third step, make money. Yeah, exactly. All right, and then Jason had one more comment for us. The Meet Your Maker maps literally were not winnable. and I don't know how they could have won with any equipment that didn't make me invincible, because the trap activated and just trapped me with unavoidable explosions. Needless to say, I didn't buy the game after the free play was over. I don't know. There was a couple of gadgets in there that I noticed I think I could have gotten, where I could have gotten through the unbearable trap that I was in. But again, they do have a balancing mechanic that's very strange there. Because like in Mario Maker, so to speak, in Mario Maker, you have to be able to do your own level. You have to play your own level through for it to be able to go up. Whereas Meet Your Maker, and Meet Your Maker would be hard to do that in, but in Meet Your Maker, you don't have to. Like, there is a balancing. Like, there's so many points you can put into a level, and that's supposedly, like, well, that makes it possible. But at the same time, like, there are some things where you're like, I could stick stuff right here. Nobody's gonna, like, you know what I mean? It's gonna be very hard to get through that, especially when you unlock some of the traps later that are just like they'll just make these bomb rooms that it's like, how the fuck are you ever supposed to live through this?
Well, that's the thing too, is even like with Mario Maker's one, it's easily exploitable. Like if you look back through with Game Grumps, whenever they played through the Mario Maker levels that Ross made, there was always some like super secret invisible block that had a door fall through that just takes you to the end. So like, okay, how, of course you beat it because, you know, you went that route.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. Finally, Seatown Avenger says the AI scent thing. Well, WWE games, you can smell what The Rock is cooking. Let me go ahead and tell you, The Rock is cooking pancakes. Pancakes, Rock. Nobody's going to remember that commercial. It was the original SmackDown commercial. But pancakes, Rock! Pancakes! Look it up on the internet. The original SmackDown, the video game commercial. It's a funny one. All right. So, that's it for Fan Traction. We made it through Fan Traction. Our talking point today are our 3 top soundtracks ever recorded. I'm going to get some hate from some of my community members because I didn't pick any 2D brawlers. And I constantly lout 2D brawlers as some of the best music out there, and I still hold true to that. But top 3 was hard, and one of them everybody's going to go, oh, this. But I just got to be honest. We'll get into it in a second. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with that.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that brings us to our talking point. Our 3 greatest soundtracks of all time. So, who is going first? Which one of us is going first? We've got 3 each. Should I go first? Should you go first?
Well, you know what? I think I will start it off because I think I have a little personal disclaimer that I have to.
Okay, all right, hit us up.
I have to go with this. This is.
We might steal some too, so it might.
We're
not be
gonna
6 full games because I think Neil and I are very similar in the musical genre area when it comes to video games.
And that's the thing is, whenever he had suggested this, we were talking about this before we really started recording, and if you give me like a minute, 30 seconds, I can rattle off at least 10 different soundtracks that are like fantastic that I can listen to completely. The ones that I picked for mine are like the ones that stand out for very specific reasons for me. Only one of them is I can just kind of slap the label of I just really like it on it. Okay. So yeah, I'll just
say your first.
Yeah.
For me on the disclaimer, I will say I tried to pick not just my favorite, but I tried to pick in the same way. Like, these are my favorites. They have personal significance to me, but in addition to that, I think from the industry as a whole, these are like huge soundtracks for the industry. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So go ahead with your first one.
So the first one, the first one that I don't think that I am going to be able to get into as much, just because this is the one that's I just really like it, and maybe one of the ones that you're probably anticipating, is the Undertale soundtrack.
Oh, I didn't have it on my list. I should have. The minute you started talking, I was like, oh, Undertale. I should have said Undertale.
The Undertale soundtrack is fantastic. In fact, Kayla got me for Christmas this year this very unique clock that I'm kind of looking up at right now. Because I love the music from this game so much, it is actually an actual vinyl record that has been dremeled out with like a collage of different characters and everything from Undertale.
That's awesome.
I absolutely love it. Behind me, I even have where my thumb is. I have the collector's edition of the Switch version, which has a little music box in it that plays basically kind of the main theme from the game. The theme there, the music itself just has a way of bringing to life this world and this game that's effectively like 8-bit style. An 8-bit style sort of game. The music still kind of follows that for the most part, but at the same time, where it matters, they'll have actual like orchestral swells building up for those impactful moments. The soundtrack, I have so many different versions of it, like saved onto playlists and everything. I'm slowly collecting actually everything music related for it. I actually have up there as well. There is a version too that has the whole soundtrack on disc. I'm now collecting the vinyls of it too. I just absolutely fucking love that soundtrack.
All right, so full stop. I want to say I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit for this one, because I'm going to say this right now. I have not played Undertale. However, I watched Game Grumps play the entire game. Not even just because I like Game Grumps, but because I wanted to see how that game ended. I wanted to see it from start to finish, and it's just not my kind of game to play. And that's one thing I like about Game Grumps is often, like, they're playing Phoenix Wright a lot lately.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, it's a game that I'd love to see, but I would never play a fucking game like that. So, like, I watched the Game Grumps play through all the way through, and there were moments where I was like, please, guys, shut up. I want to hear this boss music so bad. Please shut up. They're just talking, which they're supposed to. No shit on them. But I think that soundtrack is way more impactful in the video game industry than you're giving it credit for. I mean, there are concerts of like symphony orchestras playing this. There's all sorts of like special like stuff. Wasn't it played at like the Super Bowl or something? Some crazy event. Maybe it wasn't a Super Bowl. Somewhere.
Played for the Pope.
That's right. Played for the Pope. Like, that makes it pretty impactful. And I just want to say right now, I think that soundtrack, and this is a soundtrack that I've actually sought out. I actually listened to it outside of Game Grumps because like I said, they wouldn't shut up, which they're not supposed to, but they wouldn't. I think that one of my, like, I've listened to it. I think it is an 8-bit masterpiece. It is somebody who knew the 8-bit style from the Nintendo, the Sega Genesis kind of video game era. They took that, they merged it with some of the stuff that you could do today. They both paid homage and upped the game at the same time. I think anybody out there who wants some fun musical soundtrack to listen to in an afternoon, Undertale soundtrack is 100% great. I don't think you're giving it credit. I don't think it should count as just a you like this
really
one.
Super like it.
Yeah, I think
it's cool.
I think it truly is pretty impactful as far as it goes. Like, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things that like I urge people to seek it out. And that's like kind of like to put a cap on that and just kind of slowly segue into yours. Like, you know, that's what made this so hard. Is we were even talking a little bit beforehand about this. There are soundtracks that I listen to for games that I've never even played. Like,
well, and video game music's cool. Like, it is.
Yeah,
it's just one of those very interesting things, especially when it's done really well, you know. So my first one, we're going to talk about video game music that's done really well. This is the first one that I think maybe I stole from Neil, although now I'm thrown for a loop because I'm already wrong on my 3 predictions list here on one of them. But look, this game, the minute you hear this overture, you know what game it is. It inspires the feeling of the game in you. It gives you
not on my
that
list,
feeling.
but
And there's nobody on the planet Earth who has picked up a video game controller doesn't start hearing that, and not know fucking Skyrim. I know everybody out there's rolling their eyes because there's a lot of our fans who don't really care for Skyrim. Their music in that game is flawless. It is phenomenal start to finish. The battle music gets you into it. It is subtle and understated while also pumping you up and just getting awesome. The overture, the people like singing the Celtic, Skyrim's soundtrack stays in my head, and I still listen to it whenever I am trying to come up with story for fantasy stuff. I play Skyrim. Just a little note, we do a TTRPG stuff on here too. We do Astral Drive. One of the first campaign for Astral Drive was they were on a medieval planet. It's sci-fi, but they were on a planet that's largely medieval in like a Viking North area. All of the writing was done while listening to Skyrim for that entire campaign. Like, Skyrim just gets me in that place. And I love Skyrim. Skyrim soundtrack. Maybe I'm a basic bitch, but I think the Skyrim soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal.
So I actually listened to they did a 10th anniversary concert for the game that does like an actual live orchestra arranged versions of some of the songs. And at the end, it actually does. This is in the time before Starfield came out. There's a little bit of the Starfield stuff in there too. But when I'm doing schoolwork, I actually put that on all the time, basically all the time. There's three sets of songs, like music, that I listen to when I'm doing homework. That's one of them, is that replay of that concert.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just that music. It is everything it needs to be for Skyrim, right? Like, I would argue that game wouldn't be as good as it is. Like, it wouldn't have held people as well as it did without the musics. Even the, like, just walking through a field, like, bling, 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 that sort of music was just like, it's just every time the music chimed in, it was perfect, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is your second one? See if I got
this is going to be one of the ones. This is going to be one of the ones that I think that you may have on the prediction for me.
All right.
And I specifically picked one of the two games so far that are out in this series for this.
Yeah, this is the one. I know. I got it. I got it.
They actually did, like, when the game was in production, they did like a deep dive video into what they did for the soundtrack for this, and even went so far as to do a casting call for a death metal choir. The Doom Eternal soundtrack is absolutely fantastic. Doom itself, like the Mick Gordon did such a good job. In fact, I think I showed it before. I'll show it again down here in the bottom corner of my screen. There's the vinyl sitting back there for the Doom soundtrack for the first one. The Doom Eternal one is going to be the next one that I need to pick up. It is metal as ever living shit, but how they keep it flows with the game itself. So as you're going through and you're picking up, there are waves and waves in these areas that they basically lock you into until you defeat all the enemies. And it starts out a bit slower, but then as you go through another wave, another layer gets built on top of that until you have a full-on metal symphony going on that flows with, like, how the game is trying to present. Right. Doom is one of those games where you don't, go hang out behind cover and wait for your shields to come back up or anything like that. You play like that, you will fail, you will die, you will never beat the game. You have to get in their face. Yeah, you do. It's one of those to where you got 10 health left and one single thing is going to get you. You know that you have to get in somebody's face and, like, flamethrower them so you can get, like, an armor drop or something. You have to go, you have to flow, you have to be constantly high pace moving constantly. That metal ass soundtrack is everything that it needed to be. And I'm so sad that Bethesda parted ways with Mick Gordon after the Doom Eternal soundtrack, because I think I'd mentioned this.
Yeah.
The Doom Eternal DLC that came through, it was a different composer that did that. I don't even remember the guy's name. It sounds like a pale imitation of what was done before. Right. And I am honestly, I really hope they find a way to somehow patch things up with him for the inevitable third game.
They had a straight
It was
fight
a bad fight.
Yeah.
It was a bad fight, and Mick left not on good terms. And
it
that's,
wasn't like he
so
was
sad.
just like, I'm going to go do this and I don't have time to do the DLC. It was like, fuck those guys. Yeah. I agree. Just to harken back, I do believe that was one of our year's Horrible Game Awards winners.
Yes, it was.
For a soundtrack. I think our community respects it as well. I think that like it is really good. It's got that like aggro metal sound that's just so different, you know. It's so good. It does. Like, I'm not even a metal guy. I'm really not. But like the Doom stuff, I've listened to some of it and just pumped myself up while cleaning and stuff. Doom is a good one. Doom is definitely one that I
just have this mental image of flying around cleaning to metal music now.
But like in Doom style, like I'm chain pulling myself to things and like Swiffering them. Doom's a good one. Doom's a good one. I like Doom. And it's also on my list. I predicted that one, showing it. They've now seen the other two. You haven't, because Neil can't see me, guys. But yeah, Doom was on my list. All right, so that brings me to my second one, right?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna do the other one that I think I won't steal from you, because there's one on here that I'm pretty sure we're gonna have the same one on. But you've done two now, so I don't know. And this one, so for me, this one just kind of stands the time with the classics. If there was one on my list that was more just for me, this is one. And it's one of those that, like, I used to play this game with my brother when I was really young. It was one of our first, like, gaming obsessions. And the music itself, like, I would sing it at school and sing it while I was walking around. And I also think there's been a lot of emulation of it since then. And that is specifically Mega Man 2. Like Bubble Man, Metal Man, Air Man, Crash Man, those tunes, and trust me guys, you're like, what the fuck are those? If I hummed them for you, you would know what they are. Like, those are like immortal level tunes as far as it goes, and they are the kind of like super classic stuff. This is Nintendo when they only had like two tones, like that's it, that's all they had to make something amazing, and they really did. They like knocked it out of the park. And Mega Man 2 specifically, like every other Mega Man, great music. Mega Man always has great music. Mega Man X, they're always good musics. Mega Man 2 is like wall-to-wall bangers of bloops and bleeps that just like, it sums up for me Nintendo, Genesis, all of the 2D right there, like what they could do with those musical notes back then. And just like, if you want to remind me of music in my youth for video games, it's Mega Man 2. The hum me Metal Man's music, and I'm there, you know what I mean? I love those. I love them. And not only that, it has spawned so many bands. The Megas, other people who just like hard rock play these things. They're just great tunes.
Yeah, so I'm about to say something that's going to frustrate and piss off a lot of people. I've never played any of the Mega Man games.
Any of them at all.
A single solitary one. Never once.
That would
never ever
You're
once.
On a gaming channel.
I know.
That's called Old Man Gaming.
I know. And
that's a classic.
It is like one of the very few glaring classic games that I at least like there's some games that like I have light familiarity with. Like, yeah, I played it or have seen it and like know a little bit of what's going on with it. I mean, Mega Man, all I know is you're taking out the Mavericks. And then there's Dr. Wily. I've never played any of those games. That also said, I have also heard of the Proto Men. and I have listened to some of that music that has been inspired by the Mega Man games. So, like, and that's just a testament, like you said, that's a testament to those games and the music associated with them. They're full, true classics that have stood the test of time and have been remixed and remade so many times over.
Absolutely are. I think that what's weird about that is Mega Man's really your kind of game.
It is.
That's weird.
That's the thing,
it's like anime
crazy.
Based. It's kind of Metroidvania.
I know.
It's platformy. It's difficult. Like, there's a trick to it. Like, it's a very Neil game. I'm surprised that that's missed. Nonetheless, I am going to send you a playlist of Mega Man 2, like the OG. I'm going to find it on YouTube because I know it's there because I've listened to it before. I'm going to find the OG. They're usually, the tracks are repeatable from like a minute and 20 seconds. So you could probably listen to the entire soundtrack in like 15 minutes. But they're just so good. Like, you'll be humming them for the rest of your fucking life, like, once you hear them. They're just so good. All right, so your third one, your final one, and I think this is the one we're going to have the same on, but we're gonna find out. I
would be surprised, actually, if this is one that
all right, well, then you're going to respect my third one. I'll say that.
So this one, again, thinking back to, there are multiple entries that I could associate and point to, and there were a couple of them that rose higher on the list than the others, but I feel like the third entry, which is technically not the third entry if you get into the craziness of it, Kingdom Hearts 3's soundtrack.
That is not what I had.
Kingdom Hearts 3 soundtrack.
1 out of 3. 1 out
That's
of 3.
not bad. That's not. It's still. That's a 33%. That's a third of a nice size pie.
It's failing.
That's fair.
Go ahead.
Well,
Keep going.
If you go by that logic, 2 out of 3 is also failing.
It's true. This is true.
But so the Kingdom Hearts 3 soundtrack, I've loved the Kingdom Hearts soundtracks forever. I almost put Kingdom Hearts 2 on there, but what 3 does is takes damn near every single song that has shown up in the previous games, because the third Kingdom Hearts 3 is not the third game, it's like the 12th game or something stupid in the series of games, and it puts a cap on that entire Xehanort saga. There are remixed versions of the same songs that have appeared previously that change their tone based off of. There's actually 2 separate songs that are basically upbeat songs anyways, but story-wise, they have such a dark and sad connotation that they flip the pitch of the songs and turn them into boss fight music. They take all of the different, like, Xehanort, Organization 13, all of those members, their fights, the conflicts, themes that are associated with, like, when Riku was dark and in that sort of part of his story, and flip it around and implement it into parts of newer songs for boss fights or in situations as a callback. The music itself brings you into a spot that makes you think about the journey of the games. And Lord knows, as somebody who's a fan of these games, a journey is an understatement. The amount of mental fortitude you effectively have to keep track of what is going on is up there. And I'll be honest, even some of the stuff, sometimes I started to fall off on the lore after a while, but that's a totally separate thing. But the music itself brings you to what the story itself is trying to tell you, or bring back what you have experienced in the past that's supposed to be reminiscent, and basically just being a bookend for this entire saga. It's completing is what I think I'm trying to get at.
So it's hard for me to comment on this because this is not one I have listened to, sought out, or played at all. That in no way is trying to unjustify your pick. I am sure it is exactly what you said it is. It's just not one that I can speak to very much, but it does sound very interesting, very good. I will endeavor to go check it out as a soundtrack, honestly.
Yeah, if there's one thing that there's the one that kind of presents it most is that there's one specific video that kind of puts it into perspective. It's all of the Xehanort boss fights, and you can feel the progression of the music to the point to where it winds up effectively in the end. They take the three main fight themes for like the main bad guy, and then in the end, when they get to the very last conflict, they mash it all together into one, because he's basically the three people all in one at once.
Nice.
That evokes that uniformity.
Feeling. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. My final one is one that you're going to respect. This is another one that I actually predicted you to have, which I'm kind of glad. Just for the record, my predictions were Doom, a 2D Sonic game, and then this one. This one is The Rise of Butt Rock, baby. Sonic Adventure. I can't not put this shit on here. Are you serious? The dude has a band that has existed now forever that literally came about just because like this game was being made on Sega Dreamcast, and he formed a band to create this, and it's just butt rock. And now, if I recall correctly, it was announced that he's doing a remake of one of the songs for the next actual Sonic movie, which has been one of my biggest problems with the last two, is there's no butt rock in them. We need butt rock. Live and Learn, the Knuckles theme, like all of those. Like, first of all, if you haven't played Sonic Adventure, there is this band, okay, for all the 3D Sonic games called Crush 40. It's Gen Senue. He's this Japanese guy who put this band together, and it's just the most, like, it's so basic alternative that it's awesome at the same time in a weird way. And he just this, every time you hear these themes, they just pump you up. It doesn't even matter that the words don't really make sense. It's just like, live and learn, hanging on the edge of tomorrow. And he did the entire soundtrack for Sonic Adventure. And I would argue that Sonic Adventure is rough around the edges. It's the first true 3D outing for the character. Yeah. The face mapping is all over the place. There's a lot of weird glitchy floating and stuff when they're doing cinema cuts and whatnot. But the soundtrack is just so fucking good when, like, Sonic for no reason grabs a snowboard and, like, fucking boards through a fucking road system and some shit. Like, Sonic Adventure 2, Crush 40, just knock it out of the fucking park every time. I still find Crush 40. I have a Crush 40 playlist on my Spotify, and I still listen to them, man. They never get old for me. It's got to be Sonic Adventure for my third one. It just has to.
Yeah, and you know what's really stupid is I have a CD of that soundtrack. And I actually have a ring burnt into the disc from listening to Eggman's theme over and over.
That's great. That's great.
So the Sonic is, especially the 3D stuff. I was a little sad with Sonic Frontiers when they actually got Kellen Quinn from Sleeping with Sirens to do some of the songs for the bosses.
Still so good though.
It was good. It was
because she emulated it. She emulated Crush 40, and that's what's great about him. Like, that's what I loved about it.
Yeah, he went that route. He went that route of trying to emulate it, but it, like, almost legitimized it. It's like, hey, this is real music, guys. It's real music. This guy from Sleeping with Sirens. Come on, man. I
did listen to that soundtrack a lot, honestly. Yeah, I thought about that one, but my problem with it was like the rest of the music was only okay. But in Sonic Frontiers, for anybody who hasn't played Sonic Frontiers, basically it's the open world Sonic game. It is really good. It's worth it. But you would run around this open world collecting stuff, and then once you collected a certain amount of stuff, you'd go to the boss fight of that map, and the boss fight would be you turn into Super Sonic and fight some kaiju while, like, just the most metal ass butt rock metal plays in the background. The first time that happened in Frontiers, like I was just this is the greatest moment of my life.
Yeah.
like got married, had a child. This moment right now in Sonic Frontiers, like it's just great. It's just great.
Yeah, and I will tell you, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was one of the ones that got knocked out of contention.
The Michael Jackson one.
Yes, and a little. I guess this is my super secret fourth one. I suppose
I have a super secret fourth one too, so don't worry about it.
So this one here, I mean, of course, like I mentioned, all of the Sonic. I have MP3s downloaded of some of the original Sonic themes, the boss music from Sonic 2, the last boss music from, technically, if you played it on its own, Sonic 3 or Sonic and Knuckles, that there. But I think I'd mentioned to you, I picked up the Sonic Origins collection when it was on sale to see how that played out. And, it was fine. Nice little remaster, fun little features. But the one thing that was really glaring that actually ruined my entire play of the Sonic 3 portion of the game was all of the Michael Jackson involved music was ripped out and replaced with basically generic ass shit.
Yeah, just terrible stuff.
And it was just it was so bad it made it unbearable. Like it was a completely different game. Like Michael Jackson's influence on those songs is what really made that game for me.
Yeah.
The mini boss music in Sonic 3, that if you've never heard it, somebody, if you're listening to this, go find it and just listen to it. You can tell it was a song that was done by, like, produced like with Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
You can even hear his normal woos and stuff like that in it. That there, I would listen to that song in particular constantly. And that's the thing is, and that kind of like, I think gets to the crux of all of this is we can sit here and talk all day, every day about games, how they play, how they, the features and how you enjoy this, how you do enjoy that. The music is the most important immersion factor in those games to really make you feel what the game wants you to feel.
Yeah. Music
or lack thereof in some cases, like spooky games, can invoke a sense of terror. It can invoke, like we talked about a little bit with Doom, that rapid fire go.
Yeah.
It can tell you to chill out sometimes, depending on the situation, and that's what I really love. Just love about video game music.
I completely agree. It's a music that is made to kind of generate action in the player one way or another, and I think that makes the music very interesting. For me, my super secret, for me on the Sonic subject, there is no track better than Chemical Zone. Chemical Zone from Sonic 2. Check it out, everybody. It is the pinnacle for me of Sonic music. But for me, I did have 6 when I first thought of this topic, and that was the 3 that you heard. And then the other 3 were River City Girls 2, TMNT Shredder's Revenge, and Streets of Rage 4. Here's the problem with these, and all of these are, in my opinion, equally on the Zach meter, equally scoring points. But what I used as deciding factors is Streets of Rage 4. I think that soundtrack is absolutely one of the best soundtracks of a game ever. I listen to it constantly. I love it. It does exactly what it needs to at any given moment. I purposely go back to certain levels to fight through them because fighting through them to the songs just makes it great in my head. But most outlets didn't like the music for Streets of Rage 4 when it came out, weirdly enough. So for me, same with Shredder's Revenge was hailed for a good soundtrack. It had a lot of like original tracks in it. Like there's a RZA song for the fight with Shredder towards the end, which is really cool. There's also a couple of butt rock songs in there too. That's really cool. Neil, you've played it with me, so you've heard some of them.
Yeah.
And then River City Girls, really great soundtrack. Hailed as a good soundtrack. Very chick punk rock sort of soundtrack that's just perfect for the game. But compared to the other three, I felt like the other three were more impactful on a whole. All of these games, 100% score equal for me. Like, that's how influential they are. But if I have to then decide a factor to eliminate three other ones, it has to be how impactful are they to the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. Again, Skyrim is one of the most known soundtracks in the world. I think Mega Man 2, like, its like influences ring true throughout, and it is a nostalgia, like everybody remembers Mega Man 2 soundtrack who played it, you know what I mean, from the nostalgia area. I think it hits a lot of people's nostalgia bones. And then Sonic Adventure 2, like, just keeps going, the butt rock. Like, I feel like they spawned a whole genre onto themselves. So that's why I didn't pick those. All the people who are going to get mad at me for not picking 2D brawlers, as a person who absolutely loves 2D brawlers, just want to let you know, that's why.
I feel like, and that's the thing, is like, I feel like this could have, like, we could have dedicated a literal entire podcast and filled up with at least an hour, if not two, of talking about constantly just different games and the music associated with them and everything like that.
Without a doubt. But that's it. That's our three. Did we get them right? Did we get them wrong? Tell me what you guys' are in the comments below. We'd love to hear about them. And we're going to take a quick break and go to the news.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our final segment, the news. Myself and Neil, we collect smaller news stories and that necessarily deserve a talking point, what we want to riff about, we want to tell you guys about. Headlines, so to speak. I have 4, Neil has 7. Neil, hit us with your best shot.
All right, so I'm going to go with the big one that I had on here. This is from a little while ago, but the story's still continuing on. Bits and bobs coming out about it. So Nintendo has been doing a lot with shutting down emulators lately. So it has come out that this Yuzu emulator that's been on PC cost Nintendo basically 1 million units of sale of Tears of the Kingdom. They figured it had been pirated over 1 million times. So as a result, they sued the development team, and the team folded immediately. But a lot of stuff has kind of gone on from them. From that. It was so public, it caused other emulation teams who were working on projects to completely jump ship from what they were doing, just shut down all development. But then it also emboldened others to start up development or repackage Yuzu in a different form to kind of skirt around the current public legislation that, you know, the cease and desist that Nintendo's lawyers were coming up after. But it kind of seems now that, like, it's put an increased focus on what emulation is, and the age-old argument that we've all had, that the argument for the legality of emulators has been effectively, well, it's a way to play the games that we own. Now, obviously, that's circumvented. You know, that's not the reason why people use emulation. It's just to download pirated games of stuff. But, you know, now Nintendo says that you're actually not allowed to do that one way or another, even if you have a copy of whatever game it is. They say piracy is piracy one way or another, even though that's kind of the accepted argument, effectively. But Nintendo did respond to those who had the legitimate argument of, well, there's no way for us to play some of these games, older games, games that aren't available for sale anymore, just due to the cost prohibitiveness of them, like buying a Game Boy Advance anymore. It's like $200-$300 in some cases. Well, Nintendo's response was, well, we actually have this thing called the Virtual Console, to where you can download digital copies of things. Apparently, they forgot that they shut down the Virtual Console on the Wii U, 3DS last year. So I don't know what the hell they've got. Like, sure, we have, like, with Nintendo Switch Online, so you can play a handful of games that they allow us to play, but that's the thing is for video game preservation and, just general availability of games from the past, we're starting to run out of options, or rather they're coming after the options that have been available to us. I personally think it's a little bit BS. I think that the Virtual Console is a great idea. They should have kept that up and running on the Switch. They're trying to bring everything else over to the Switch that they had in the past. I don't know why they didn't do that from there on, because that's the thing, is just like all other forms of piracy. Music piracy was a big thing for a while. It still happens, but it's not a huge thing anymore, because there are services that people can pay money monthly for, or purchase songs even for smaller increments, in availability, so that they can do what they want to do, listen to what they want to listen to. Piracy's gone by the wayside for the most part, at least a whole hell of a lot less than it was. But they have not done anything like that. And I think Nintendo is that manufactured scarcity that they love so much for the artificial value of their stuff. But this whole story's still evolving. It's still going. I just personally think that it's bullshit that Nintendo is ramping up the gatekeeping.
There's not a whole lot to add. You've kind of seconded my thoughts on everything. I do want to say right off the bat, piracy is stealing something. If you own a copy of the game, getting an emulation of it isn't stealing it. And I don't care what anybody says to me. Like, that's not piracy. Like, if Nintendo wants to say that's piracy, that's fine. But I didn't come by your product illegally. I purchased your product. You didn't make your product available on my PC, and I'm finding a workaround for that. I don't feel that is piracy. That being said, that out of the way, I do want to say there is something to be said about, like, emulation is one of the last bastions of game preservation. Do I think that emulation is exploited to gain pirated copies of video games and play them? Yes, of course it is. But to shut down emulation and game preservation, that's bullshit, because that kills the art a little bit. I mean, you want your thing to, and this is Nintendo, because Nintendo has never looked at this. We've talked about this a lot. Nintendo is one of the reasons that video games are in the situation that they're in, because they have never treated their product like anything more than a toy. Whereas it's an art form. If you want to be an art form, you have to find ways to preserve that art for future generations to witness, to experience, to be part of. Emulation is a way to do that. Personally, again, they treat it like a toy, to the point where they, just like you said, the manufactured scarcity, they make money off your nostalgia. So they keep you from playing these games as much as humanly possible, so that when they release one, you're absolutely ravenous for it. It's like the greatest thing they could have done, when all they were doing was taking your toy away in the first place. So Nintendo does this thing where, instead of, like, we're not going to provide you with, like, we provide you with a toy, then we take that exact same toy away and we hold it until you start crying, then we give you that toy again and pretend like we're your best friends for doing it. Whereas the toy that you purchased, they took away. The Virtual Console being shut down, the GBA, the old stuff not being accessible. I mean, tomorrow, I know it's unlikely, but tomorrow Nintendo could go belly up. It could cease to exist. And then literally there are tens of thousands of classic games, classic pieces of art that will just evaporate into the ether and disappear forever. Why? Because Nintendo doesn't want emulation. Nintendo doesn't want people to be able to play this or experience it. Whereas if Nintendo really wants to do it this way, what they should do is create their own emulator. Create your own emulator and put your games on there when they become, obsolete. You can even have fans run it. Like, find a way to preserve these games. One of the big problems with gaming industry not being taken as an art form, it creates all of this money grubbing psychosis that we have. And it's never going to be taken as art until it's treated as art by the people who make the art. And, like, Nintendo doesn't treat it that way. It treats it like a fucking G.I. Joe that you're going to, like, eventually blow up in your backyard. Like, that's what it does. And that's not the way to treat it if you want it to be taken seriously.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, if Nintendo sold a console that was effectively, think of like the PlayStation Portal, a hunk of plastic that did nothing on its own, and you could purchase at a higher value, like an emulator for whatever console to install on there, and then from there buy the games of whatever it is that you wanted to get at like $15-$20 a pop, depending on what the game is, something like that. Shut up and take my money.
Yeah,
you will get everything and more that you want if you offer it to us.
It's what
I've always.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I've always, like, the argument that I've always used when this sort of thing, you know, they complain about, you know, well, you know, it's piracy, you know, you wouldn't download a car, you know, that was the whole thing that they had in the VHS tapes and everything back in the day for piracy. You know, you can't do it with a video game, but hey, you can go to your local library. I used to do this shit all the time, actually.
Yep.
After school, I would go to the local library. I would check out music CDs. I would bring those back home for the sole purpose of putting them in my computer and ripping them.
Yep.
All the official everything, everybody was fine with, as long as you could borrow a CD from a friend.
Yep.
And make a copy of it on your thing. You didn't buy that CD, but hey, totally fine and cool to do. But, you know, that's fine. But, you know, something like that isn't. I think it's because of, you know, the value of those things is a little bit different. You know, a CD was, you know, $12 to $15. A game is like $70. I get that argument, but at the same time, like, y'all aren't giving us very many options otherwise.
No, they're not. And yeah, that's. Well, I was gonna say something and then I lost it, but I think that, like, you have this, like, aspect of like art is meant to be spread. It's supposed to be experienced and spread. If it's gonna be treated like art, it is, and that's one of the things about music. You know, there is a point where I get, hey, they're trying to take money off you or they're trying to pirate your stuff. I get that, but why be so hostile to the people? What Nintendo should have done is bought Uzu.
Yeah.
Instead of suing them and shutting them down and going shock and awe and pissing off literally everybody, like everybody who used this product, from the pirators to the legitimate ones, why didn't you just buy them? Like, you have the money, buy their emulator, make their emulator proprietary software, and then decide what goes on there. You keep it running. You know, it'd still garner a little bit of hate, but it certainly wouldn't get you what you're getting right now for what you've done. Like, I don't know. I don't understand their logic behind this. And again, it's just more evidence that, like, gaming is never going to be taken seriously until the companies that make the games treat it that way.
Right.
Speaking of Nintendo, I'm going to do a weird one. There's a game called Kien. It is now officially the longest delayed game to actually release. It will be released, well, if it releases, it's supposed to release next month. And it's a Game Boy Advanced game. So if you still have one of those, pull them out, because they're making cartridges.
Because they're $300 now.
Yeah, right? They're actually making cartridges for this. So this game was delayed 22 years. 22 years. That means in 2002 this game was announced. It went into many sets of development hell. The company that was creating it went under. Some people got a hold of it, did a Kickstarter to restart it back up, and finish the development. 22 years later, they will be shipping. They're supposedly shipping cartridges later this month, I believe. But it's called Kien, Kien. You can look this story up. But 22 years, longest delayed game to actually release, I believe. So it's very interesting. I don't think it was ever actually officially canceled either. Like, the company went under, so people just assumed. But I don't think anybody actually said, yeah, this game is canceled ever. So interesting, just an interesting one.
Yeah, that would be, that's awesome.
Hey,
I'm holding out.
You guys can't be mad about Skull and Bones now.
That's fair. That is fair. Even though Skull and Bones ain't doing too great, I didn't put it on my list, but it had a sale already cut down to $25.
It did have a sale, but they keep swearing up and down that it's making money.
Yeah.
So
we'll see.
I don't know. I will say this. I haven't been in it this last week because WWE 2K24 came out. Everybody knows me and my love of wrestling. But when I last played it, it still had plenty of regular players that I would see online. It's definitely not the ghost world that Anthem was 2 weeks after release. So so we'll see. But yeah, they swear up and down that thing's a success. It's the up and down. They're like, it's great. It's doing great. Did have a sale, though.
So, going on to my next one here. Sure. This is one that you and I briefly talked about a little while ago.
Sure.
JB Perret, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, of Warner Brothers Gaming Division, said that the recent failures of live service games, such as their own Suicide Squad, has made them want to double down on live service games because there's so much room and for opportunities and growth.
I sent you this. I sent you the story.
Yes, I don't know what the hell, like, by that logic, there's a lot of room and growth for home phone service.
Yeah. Right
now. There's so much opportunity because nobody's doing it.
I mean,
there's room and opportunity for tons of fucking shit. Taxidermied chickens, for fuck's sake. Why not? I don't understand. Like, it's almost like a child's dog that has been hit by a car. And the child is just going over there and in denial. That this dog is
still throwing a ball for it.
It's totally fine. Totally fine. Go ahead, get the ball. Like that
real
is
dark metaphor.
Well, to continue with the metaphor, the only option at this point is to not necessarily get another dog that's going to get hit by a car. Maybe fence in the backyard for your dog, or get a cat instead that is a pet that you can take care of. Something like that. They're not doing these live service games right, except for one game out there that is giving me hope for live service as a whole, that Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
Not played. I've not played because I don't have the $40 to drop on it, but how they are approaching live service is everything. Like, that right there is the shining example.
But that shining example is a double A company.
And that gets back to the crux of everything.
With a discounted price of $40, right?
Exactly.
Like, that's the problem. Look, we've been talking about this a lot lately. This whole games of service, like, absolute obsession that these AAA companies have. And he's right. There's tons of space in the live service market, 100%, because no one has made anything other than Destiny.
Right.
Like, that's my big problem here. What Warner Brothers doesn't understand is Suicide Squad didn't fail because it's a live service game. It didn't fail because it's not a narrative game. It didn't fail because of the characters or the IP. It failed because you reskinned Destiny with DC superheroes. That's why it failed. And you didn't even do Destiny well, And you did this on top of a narrative single-player franchise. So, like, you just made all the mistakes there. If you want to do a good games of service game, make a games of service game Look, I know everybody hates Skull and Bones. You don't like it. That's fine. I get it. But Skull and Bones at least attempted to do a game as a games of service that made you feel like pirate, not just like you were doing Destiny in a tri-corner hat. Okay, you have to do stuff like that. The other problem is the trust. What trust does anyone have in a live service WB game at this point? And that is absolutely nothing. And this can actually go into one of my next ones. But but yeah, like on your metaphor of get a cat, just do it right, man. Do it right, okay? Like, which brings me to multiverses. I don't know if you've seen this.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched the trailer or anything.
So, just a little history for all of you guys. Multiverses.
Is that still installed on my computer?
It is
I know we talked about it.
It's a WB Smash Brothers game.
It's still here.
That actually got quite a bit of a good critic and player reviews. People really liked it. But it's like WB characters for Smash Brothers, and people really liked it. Everybody was playing it, and for infinitely stupid reasons, they just decided to shut down the company doing it and slowly kill it for no apparent reason. Which, this is what I'm talking about. You had a live service game that you actually were doing right. You stopped doing it to make Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
King Shark Destiny. Like, what is happening at WB Games? But they have recently come out with a new roadmap. They are launching a 1.0 version, and Multiverses is apparently officially gonna start getting the support. Like, they have redoubled down on it. They're bringing it back. They're like, hey man, sorry we've been gone for basically a year, not giving any updates or anything to this game, and basically just killing your hope that it will ever come back or be anything whatsoever. We're bringing it back, and we're going to do something with it now. This is the kind of stuff, though. Like, why didn't you do this in the first place? You had trust. You killed your trust. Anybody who played Multiverses in the first place, do you think they're going to want to come back to you now? Like,
especially after they straight up said, yeah, all the shit you bought for the first gen of the game too isn't going to carry over.
It's not going to carry over. This is all new. It is ridiculous. WB, I mean, it's just insane how they're running things. And every company is running it like this. They think that, like, they have all these figures, and it's because CEOs are doing it. Like the Helldivers guys, they're very obviously guys who wanted to make a good game. A live service good game. So guess what? They went out and they fucking did that. On the other side, these AAA guys, they have figures on a sheet that says Destiny equals money. And they keep trying to make that without thinking at all or doing any research on how Destiny makes money. And yeah, I'm sure they have, well, Destiny sells cosmetics this way. That's how we'll make our money. No, Destiny builds trust with its players. And it keeps those players around long term. Fortnite builds trust with its players, and it keeps them around long term. That's how they make money off them. These people don't see that, and it's just insane to me.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of funny because we have brothers these choices, and they never were making the greatest choices to begin with, but it's like been especially bad. I think now I kind of want to rewatch the sequel to Space Jam because that's kind of like the villain in that movie is an AI who wants to just make the best game to generate the most money humanly possible. Right. I feel like it's art imitating reality at this point. It was
like, this is what we're gonna do. You realize that didn't work in your cartoon movie, right? Like,
right.
Like you guys literally played LeBron James a bunch of money to defeat that AI system. Why are you listening to it now? I don't understand.
And he was a character in Multiverses.
Yep. Yeah, verse. All right, well, I'm down to just 2. I think you still got like 4 left, right?
I still have a stupid amount.
Dope.
So, the next one, kind of relatively on topic for what we were talking about for our main talking point. Marty O'Donnell is back in the news, composer for the Halo games, because he's running for Congress in Nevada. Quite the career change.
Yeah, that is quite the career change.
Quite the career change.
I mean, he also had a failed game company since then.
Yeah,
Disintegration
I forgot about that.
was him.
Yeah.
Which I played. It was all right. But yeah, that's just weird. I am gonna go ahead and do my last two because they're both very depressing. If that's all right.
Yeah, mine. Yeah, that's totally fine.
All right. My first one's the most depressing. Neil, I know you don't follow wrestling at all. I don't know if you've heard anything about the Vince McMahon sex trafficking thing.
I heard a little bit about that whenever it popped up in like I guess I would call it quote unquote real news. About a month or two ago.
Yeah, it's definitely not kayfabe. So it's terrible stuff, man. I'm not going to talk about it here because it's just the worst imaginable stuff you could do to another human being. It turns out that one of the people he was sex trafficking this woman to was a wrestler, a very famous wrestler and UFC fighter named Brock Lesnar, who
I've heard the name.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's huge. He's huge in the wrestling industry. They have taken him out of 2K24 as much as they can, basically, because all of this came out like with 2 months before the release, basically. So like, what are you gonna do at that point, right? So he's been removed from like most of the modes. There is showcase mode where you still take him on and certain things because their showcase mode was like 40 years of WrestleMania, and Brock was involved in a lot of big matches at WrestleMania, so he's still in there like that. A lot of his moves are still in there, so you can like recreate him in the community creation and stuff like that. But as much as they could take him out, they have, which I'm fine with. Never liked Brock Lesnar anyway. To find out some of the stuff he did was shitty. I mean, it's nowhere near the stuff that Vince McMahon did, and he is just an awful human being. But yeah, they are both.
He's been an awful human for years.
Yes, for years. For years, he's just terrible. I mean, this guy already resigned. He resigned in disgrace from WWE because of hush money he paid to women he had sexually harassed, abused, or raped. Then his daughter, his own daughter, got the company with her husband, right? Took over the company. He came, but he remained with all of his stock intact. So then, when it was time to do a new TV deal, he basically said, I'm not going to sign any TV deal unless you put me back on the board. And if you don't put me in the head of the board. And they were like, we don't want to do that. And he's like, well, I won't sign the TV deal and the company will literally fall. So he's willing to kill his company. He hostile took over the company from his own daughter and son-in-law. Then fired the board members who reinstated him, hired in yes men to sell the company to UFC under the guise that he would always be in charge of WWE. And now he's finally out of WWE because of this sex trafficking thing. They've finally been like, you're done. You're absolutely fucking done. But he's totally evil piece of shit. That being said, he's not in the game. Brock is almost not in the game, which is great. Yeah, it's terrible. I'm glad they're out. But yeah, just want to say that. That's my news there. My other terrible one is nowhere near as bad as that. And that is Pocket Pair. Our Pal World friends. They're basically owned by Microsoft now. No, that hasn't been announced. Basically, they came out and said the game was so successful that we have no way to manage the amount of money that we have made on Pal World. Like we don't have the way to manage it. We don't want to make our team bigger. They're only a 55-person team. So we don't want to make our team bigger. We like our team the way it is, but we've made billions of dollars and we have no idea how to manage it. So they are looking for partners or to be acquired. And then they assured us that they hadn't talked to Microsoft yet. And I was like, well, they have, or they have now. Like, by the time that story's out, they have. Phil Spencer's waddling his ass into the room with his fucking leather jacket.
He's rapping on the door.
Skateboarding in, taking his sunglasses off. Like, guess what, guys? We'll manage your billions for you. Yeah, so they're basically going to be bought by Microsoft. I would be willing to wager money on that. But
Yeah.
I do respect the fact that they don't want to make their team bigger. Pocket Pair, you really need to think about this, because every one of these smaller teams that gets bought up by big teams, like, get an accountant, man, because every one of these smaller teams that gets bought up by a bigger team, like, you look at every team, single or double A, that has been purchased by Microsoft, their quality of game significantly declined post the buyout. So please think about that shit before you get involved with Microsoft, or anybody for that matter. Anybody. Just like I said, just hire a couple of accountants, man. Like, please.
Yeah, I really hope that they don't go down that route.
Yeah. So do I.
Or worse, like Embracer or some shit like that.
Well, I mean, Embracer can't even afford to buy people right now because they're so stupid. I mean, unless they found a new, like, terrorist country to apparently purchase them.
They'll ask for a loan from Pocket Pair to buy Pocket Pair.
Putin now owns Embracer and Pocket Pair. Yeah. All right. So that's it for me. I'm done on my news.
All right. So, nothing super big on the ones that I have. Well,
okay.
Speaking, I suppose. A little bit of rumors, a little bit of fun. So, not so fun. While not directly gaming related, it basically kind of is. Rooster Teeth is shutting down.
Yes, I heard about this. It's weird to me. It's really weird. I have, in this chest behind me, I have like the first 13 seasons of
You let me borrow quite a few of them.
Yeah,
to get me caught up, because I only had the first 3 seasons.
I had the Rooster Teeth shorts, which I thought were really good, like the first 3 volumes of that. I will say their quality declined for me after that, and if I recall correctly, there were some accusations, internal accusations leveled at them for poor work conditions, maybe even some worse stuff. But I thought that was really funny. It's weird to me because they were definitely one of the people who made me start the podcast, because I would listen to the Rooster Teeth podcast and laugh my ass off. I stopped many years ago listening to them, but they were one of the people that were like, I could do a podcast, so like, it's very strange to me to see that happening. And then there's, of course, the achievement hunters, which, achievement hunting is like, basically that phrase is coined by them. I would also argue that in many ways they started the Let's Play movement. Like, they were some of the first people doing Let's Plays.
Yeah, that's true.
I believe they were doing it before Game Grumps. Don't quote me on that, but I think that
that sounds right. That sounds right.
So, like, they definitely have delivered some of the content to us in gaming that has been groundbreaking. So it is kind of weird to see them go. I mean, hell, I even have Ruby, the first couple of seasons of Ruby.
Yeah, Ruby's not getting finished off.
Like, they're just done, which is weird. They made a movie. I never saw that. I don't know what happened there, which is interesting, but
yeah.
Well,
the next one I have here is rephrasing it from how I have it typed out, because it's now since come and passed since we got this all set up. But Mario Day. Mario Day has Mario Day was a thing that happened. That happened a week ago from time of recording. So yeah,
not
Nintendo
did the there, if I recall correctly.
Say what?
There wasn't anything really great announced there, right?
Well, there was only one thing. They did their usual. They put like
I remember what it is, because
they put like a compilation video out of just like shots from previous Mario games, and then they did the usual Mario game Nintendo sales. They shave like $20 off of the games. They're still like $40 if you want to buy them.
The movie,
and that's the other big thing.
Okay.
That's the big thing that I think is wild. So they're partnering with Illumination again to make a second Mario movie.
Oh, good.
And I mean, it's a no-brainer at this point. I feel like it's definitely made them less skittish, from the days of the old Mario movie. But they've already got a release date and everything set, which I think is very Nintendo of them. Even though they probably aren't the one who set the release date. April 3rd, 2026. So we still got over 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, and those things take a while to make. Like, those animated movies take like, you can't churn those out, you know?
No.
Especially Illumination, which has quite a few very successful franchises at this moment.
Right.
Still adding stuff to. Yeah, this is a no-brainer, right? Like, the Mario movie is a good movie. Like, it's not... I mean, there was definitely some notes I had that I hope that they do some different stuff with the second one. But
yeah,
overall, it was a good movie. I find it highly entertaining. I enjoyed watching it. The kids that I babysit got obsessed with it for a while, and I was okay with that. I think that, like, everybody did pretty good on the voice acting. I think Jack Black, that dude, he is a great voice actor and just knocked Bowser out of the park. I think everybody else did a good job. Even Chris Pratt, I liked. I was talking to Phil Billy about it, and like, I don't think he did the Mario voice, but I don't think you would have really recognized that he's Chris Pratt unless you knew he was Chris Pratt. You know what I mean? Like, he was still different enough, which I feel like is true. There, like I said, there's a couple of things. Like, I would have wanted more Luigi, especially with Charlie Day voicing him. And I thought there was some aspects of the plot were very rushed. Like, it was like, let's go here, 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 let's go here. Like, get as much in as humanly possible, which I felt like, let's slow down and let some of these things cook a little bit. I also didn't need everything to happen back in New York. I thought that was kind of a weird ending. But that being said, I enjoy the movie. I really do enjoy the movie. Is it my favorite kids movie ever? No, but I enjoyed it. I think that was very successful, and I'm very excited to see the next one. Honestly, the first movie, my favorite part about it is the Mad Max Mario Kart scene.
Yeah, I almost wonder. I almost wonder if they're gonna like.
And Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. I loved him.
Yeah, because they shoehorned, they kind of low-key shoehorned Mario Kart in. Mm-hmm. They kind of shoehorned in Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wonder if they're gonna somehow find a way to get Mario Party mushed in there somehow.
Yeah. I would definitely see that. There's a lot of like aspects of Mario that you could like stick in there. You already have a Luma too, so you can set up the Mario Galaxy.
Well, I almost think that's kind of what they were getting at a little bit, because there were a couple points. Like, there was that one whole thing when they're in the Fire Flower fields. And then, of course, you said, the Luma as well.
It's a big galaxy out there. Yeah. I think that's really cool. You can do a lot with Princess Peach and her backstory in the movie. I don't know. I enjoy it. I'm looking forward to a second one from that team.
Same here. So 2 more.
Oh my God, 2 more.
Yeah, Jesus 2 Christ. More. Well, the last one is just a dumb throwaway one.
Okay.
But this one here, get ready to be angry.
Son of a bitch.
Sony apparently has had PS5 Pro dev kits out and available for months. So people have been getting their hands on these dev kits apparently.
Yep.
According to the rumors, there's GPU is 3 times faster than the base model that launched, and it's rumored to be coming out this holiday season. So if you are keeping track, about 4 years into the initial launch of the standard PS5, we got a slim remodel that was the same thing, only slightly smaller and more expensive for the disc-based version, and the following year, a Pro version of the console.
So, people out there, listen to me, okay? You gotta vote with your wallets. They didn't get a PS5 out to you like fast enough. They jacked up the price. They haven't lowered the price in the original one, but they're gonna put out a Pro version now. I'm guessing for even more.
Yeah.
This is insane. Like, you what's crazy to me is there's got to be a singularity here at some point, right? Because I understand console gaming until now. I understood it. I was in it for the better part of my gaming lifespan, right? And I understood it because it's a little bit cheaper right off the rip than a PC, right? And you don't have to worry about anything. You just plug it in, and there you go. It automatically gives you your updates and everything. Like, you just have it. It's there, right? You plug it in, and bam, you've got a gaming console, you know? Whereas a PC, you usually have to build one, or even if you order one, you have to still, like, maintain your updates and maintain stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It's not cheaper anymore, though. It's not cheaper or easier anymore. Like, we're reaching a point where these consoles are going to cost more than just buying a PC. And that's what's crazy. Like, you can go out right now and buy a pre-built PC that will play most of the games for, like, $900. Like,
yeah,
if you find the right special, like, easy. You could build one for $750. Like,
yeah.
And these consoles, these next generation consoles, like, that's already even with what they're, like, only $100 more expensive than what they're selling right now. Those consoles aren't going down. The pros are only going to get more expensive. And what do you think the PS6 is going to cost? It's going to cost the same or more than a PC. And it's not going to do even half of what a PC does. I think there has to be a point where we have to say no to these console companies because this is getting insane. And what's even crazier is the amount of cost that they put in these for the actual upgrades is so utterly incremental and barely perceivable by the human eye that, like, you're literally paying $300 for a couple of pixels to be slightly shinier. Like, that's what we're talking about at this moment. You know, like, the cost just keeps going higher and higher and higher while the payoff keeps going lower and lower and lower. What are we doing? We're back in this crash mentality for me. Tinfoil hat on. Like, we're all about coulda and not shoulda. Why are you making these at this point, you know?
And we're not really brushing up against, like, the technical ability of some of these games.
No.
I mean, even like I was kind of mentioning to you, I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Even Remake looked fantastic on the PS4. On the PS5 right now, I'm playing in performance mode, and just some of the vistas that I have that I'm seeing in the game are phenomenal. But I'm not running up against overheating or, like, stuttering or anything like that. The game runs smooth. My fan for my console is at a normal operating level, so it's not being taxed. We are okay with what we have. And I have a launch day PS5.
Yep.
You know, and that's the weird. It's not like it was like with the Xbox 360. It made sense going to the Xbox One. The Xbox One, even to the Xbox One S, still made a little bit of sense. Even the Xbox One X, when that was there, you know, that made sense. But the Xbox One X to the Series X has not made a whole heck of a lot of difference. You're just looking at console features, like smart delivery on download, suspension of the games, and quick resume and stuff like that. That's cool. That's great. I love that, and I'm glad that we have those things. But the tech specs, like GPUs and everything like that, like the GPU getting better, what else could you possibly do? What are you trying to do? Cram a fucking 4090 in the motherfucker?
Right.
It's not going to make a whole heck of a lot of difference.
And that's the thing. You don't need a 4090. Nobody needs a 4090 right now. That even the graphics card companies are kind of crazy. Like, the computer I built for my daughter upstairs, well, with Phil, shout out to Phil Billy, Buildmaster General. We built that computer together upstairs. That computer is going to last her probably 10 fucking years because it's got a 2 terabyte SSD in it, and it's got a graphics card that's not even close to a 4090. It's like halfway on, but it runs everything. You can't make anything big enough to shut it down at this point, you know? 4090, a 4090 graphics card. Oh, I mean, Neil, I don't believe anybody's ever going to need a 4090. like with the game stuff that they're releasing, what would you need to have a 4090 for, you know?
If you want to run 4K 60 frames, maybe get a 4090.
Maybe.
But that's the thing. That's the thing is like my monitor is a 1440.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty solid display there. I'm running a 2060
Right.
in my PC right now. There's only been one time where I haven't been able to run a game at max settings so far.
Right.
And that was when we played through Redfall. And I played it through normal display settings.
I'm running a 5600 XT, and that's an AMD, so it's much lower than a 4090, like way lower. 5600 is nothing compared to a 4090.
Right.
I'm getting 75 frames per second on WWE 2K24 that just came out. Well, so, like, the human eye can't compare. Like, it's 75 frames per second.
Exactly.
Like, and that's a brand new game. Like, I need to upgrade my SSD card. I will agree with that. That is something that has to happen, and I wish I had bought a motherboard with a second slot, which I didn't, so I'm going to have to take the whole fucking thing apart. But that aside from it, I'm going to have to upgrade that SSD. That's going to be $130, right? Mm-hmm. I maybe need to upgrade my graphics card one more time in this computer's lifespan. Possibly in my lifespan. Like, that's how long these things are going to last at this point. Like, you don't need it. You don't need to spend $1,000 for a PlayStation 6. You know, you just don't. You don't need it. And that's my thing. Like, the only reason you're not going to be able to play these games on those new consoles, or the older consoles, is because PlayStation is going to keep you from playing them on the old ones. So that it forces you to go to the next one, and that's bullshit. And that's the one thing I like about PC over it is when they put, like, yes, some games just never come to PC because they don't want that, but I can play games from PS5, PS4, either one, they play the same on my PC, period. You know what I mean? Whereas they lock stuff off with PlayStation, you know?
Yeah.
All right, I'm done being mad. Tell us because this episode's going long. I hope you have a lot of stuff to listen. You've got a lot of stuff to listen to while walking around, Will.
So I got one last one, and I always like to try to end it on a dumb, stupid one.
Right.
So there is a Twitch streamer out there. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of his name. It's Uoslab. You remember the old, how like they had the Tiger Electronics handheld games?
Yeah, oh yeah. Tigers are awesome.
He got the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 handheld game from Tiger running on a chili dog. He used the chili dog, basically the science of the reaction of the chemicals and everything within the hot dog, the onions, and the chili generated a light current and actually got that game running as a power source with it.
Oh.
The most perfect homage to Sonic.
That is cool. That is cool that it's a chili dog. Though, again, I've got to say this. I've said this every time. Please stop making games run on organic material. That is how we get demons. This is how we get demons. This is how Doom happens. Please stop it. Please stop it. You keep hooking up, like, dead meat to video games, the dead meat's going to come alive and try and murder us and eat our faces. Please stop. Please stop. I don't want a hot dog that thinks it's Eggman running around out there. All right, well, that is it for the news, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, we are going to finally switch to plugs and wrap this thing up. We'll be right back, everybody.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the show and the shameless self-promotion that comes with it. Neil, shameless. Promote.
So we are still going through recording the Ordo Scriptorium. We've done 2 episodes now. We've got a third one lined up for this week here. Mm-hmm. I would imagine we're going to be finishing up the first part of it relatively soon-ish. So from there, I know we were going to hold on to that for a little while before we started releasing that stuff, but we are going.
Yes, we're definitely recording. You guys watch for that. At this point, we're not going to release it until we release the module.
Okay, yes.
That's what we're doing. And we don't have a release date for the module yet. But when we do, I'm going to say that we'll probably... I don't know what Wiz has planned for us, but I'm going to assume that we have 3 or 4... It's going to be a 3 or 4 episode, like, season 1. Basically, we're going to do a season for every hunt, basically. So yeah, it'll... I'm guessing it will be. I don't know. It might be more. I have no idea what he has planned. But we're 2 in. Looking to do 3, and we will record more on that TTRPG front. We got a lot of TTRPG stuff coming. Just bear with us, guys. We're recording it all right now, and it will be coming later in the year. As far as gaming goes, yeah, I don't really want to plug anything right now. This episode's already gone long. You can just check out everything we have to offer. We got a lot of stuff, both video games and TTRPG stuff. We've got a TTRPG podcast I do with Wiz. We do a lot of TTRPG streams and shows. We do a lot of video game Let's Plays and contest plays and all sorts of shows. So just check out everything we have to offer. If you like something, subscribe, Other than that, you guys can reach us on Facebook at OmegaGamingDH, on Twitter at OmegaGaming9. You can join our Discord, links in the description below. Influence us in all of our shows from there. So long as you guys keep watching and you keep listening, we will keep making them. We'll see you guys next time. I'm going to share and see if you can hear it. Can you hear it right now?
No.
You can?
Mm-mm.
You could hear the flash? Oh, because it was coming through the speakers.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to play it through the speakers. Maybe that'll be easy. You know what? I'll try and share first. Not on that screen.
There we go.
Alright, can you hear it?
Yeah.
Alright, hold on. I'm going to find the Metal Man. I'm going to just use the Metal Man. That's the opening. That's just the credits. Is that right there?
That I've heard that one.
Of course
I've
you
heard
have.
this, yeah.
Of course you have. Metal Man. Oh, give me chills.
It's almost like, too, it's like, it's a next level, like, it's not just beeps and boops. It's like they have a song,
yes,
and they're somehow, like, digitizing, like, club mix into it. Like,
it's amazing. I don't know how
is.
they did this. I don't know how they did this. It's why it had to be on here. This is nothing that played Bubble Man for you. This is another one that everybody knows. Oh, so good.
I don't think I've heard this one,
You
no.
ever heard Bubble Man? That's another famous one. Yeah. Oh, so good. Alright, boss battle, then we're done.
This one I think I've heard.
Of course. Oh, such a good soundtrack. It's just so good. So good, man. It's so good. Alright, Crash Man, then we're done.
I've never heard this one.
This is good.
It's I think what is it? Shovel Knight kind of does the same exact thing. Music.
Yeah, Shovel Knight. You could tell they definitely. I mean, they even kind of play like Mega Man because you're hunting different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The only thing that sucks is when you're streaming. If I were to use this, I can't see your face because it's streaming. I can't actually get your reaction to it.
Oh.
Only your words.
I was gonna say, I think you're able to somehow pop out the screen share out on a separate thing.
Yeah, I wish. I mean, if I can, I don't know how to do it.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Say that. Alright. See what I mean about that soundtrack?
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. That's that good stuff.
Pokemon back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would leave certain battle musics just go.
Yeah.
Like it would just be like my turn, and I just like put my headphones in and listen to it.
You know what else was I almost hit was Final Fantasy VII. As much as I hate that fucking game, and I hate that game, that boss music still like. I'm like, oh man, every time that gets going, I just want to just fucking have a kung fu fight with somebody.
You know what they did?
Theme at the end.
Oh God, yeah, One-Winged Angels. I have multiple versions of One-Winged Angels saved on my computer.
Jeff Plays Guitar on YouTube made like Doom versions of One-Winged Angel and the boss music, and I on repeat, constant.
It's actually one thing because, of course, I've been playing through Final Fantasy VII. One thing that they changed, I'm so glad that they did, because the remake, every single fight was just a reworked version of just the basic fight music or like the boss music. And it was like they did enough to make them sound like different songs, but after a while, it was kind of like, okay, all right, I got it, I understand.
Got it.
This time, they actually did different fight music for different areas, but reserved the actual remixes of boss music for actual boss fights.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. That's a good idea.